I really joined a large variety of clubs, and then I kind of narrowed down which ones that I was most passionate about in the later years. And it's very important to step out of your comfort zone, trying things that maybe you wouldn't ever think of trying, maybe you like them. Also, make sure that you continue developing like skills that you feel are interesting, because as these people are going to talk about for later on in your education, you're going to need to kind of pick things that you're passionate about and really pursue those things in order to build a really strong resume around something that you're really passionate about, so that you can really make the most out of your university application. And then also start considering different summer programs / activities. So LinkedIn has lots of different summer camps and different classes you can take in the summer if you want to learn, if you want to try out new things. As well as during the summer, I worked at different summer camps, and I did lots of camps at different universities. So I would highly recommend that. You get to see the campus, you get to see kind of what the university is about, as well as just trying new things. There's engineering camps, leadership camps, law camps, anything. You can probably find it at some university. So I highly recommend just trying to get involved in the summer, not just staying at home.
All right, I'll be talking a little bit about what you should be doing in grade 10 to help boost your university applications. So grade 10 is incredibly important, once again, to keep up your marks. And throughout all of high school, I didn't really use my grade 9 and 10 marks for scholarships or anything, but it's incredibly important to keep developing those good work habits and that good work ethic, so that in grade 11 and 12, you're not suddenly trying to catch up to the work ethic that you didn't develop. So it's especially important in grade 10 because from grade 10 to 11 is a big jump, so it's better to always be prepared. And in grade 10, I really think it's important to start developing what I call your spike. To me, what this means is just something where you stand out compared to other people, right? Some people choose to do this by getting very, very good at something, right? For example, programming or math, right? Very common examples. However, this can be really anything. I've seen examples of Japanese tea ceremonies, juggling, really anything that helps you stand out and be unique among the thousands of people that apply would really help your application stand out. And you can really start developing this in grade 10, because in grade 10 you have a better idea based on the activities that you've done in grade 9, what you enjoy and what you don't. So it's really a good time in grade 10. Just keep developing those skills. Start taking on some leadership roles in clubs, because it is something that a lot of universities do look for, and in grade 10 it's a great time to start getting involved and really showing that you take initiative in your community. Not only taking leadership roles, but really advancing the cause that you're a part of. There's so many times where someone takes a leadership role and then spends the entire year not really doing anything about it. But if on your application you can say, I was not only the president of this club at my school, but I increased membership by 50%, or I raised thousands of dollars for a cause. That really sets you apart as well. And finally, in the summer between grade 10 and 11 is an amazing time to get involved in a lot of summer opportunities. There are some big ones here. In grade 10, if you have enough of a spike, some companies will start even considering you for internships. In the summer of grade 10, you can apply for a program called SHAD, which Ethan may talk about later. And of course, LinkedIn offers many great summer camps and classes in order for you to continue increasing your abilities in different areas.
So now I'm going to start talking about grade 11. So grade 11 is really when you should really start being, I wouldn't say concerned, but more focused on your academics and focusing on getting yourself ready for university and putting yourself in a good position. So at this point, universities will probably start looking at your grades. However, the grades that they're looking at are usually only for early admission decisions. I think the programs that we applied to, it was basically solely for early admission. So early admission isn't something that is necessary, but it's something that's nice to have. Being considered twice, strongly considered twice, gives you a better chance of getting into the program. And also, having high grades in grade 11 really gives you practice for grade 12, when the grades will matter a lot. It's really important to take a rigorous course load at this time. Don't try to relax. And always remember that at the end of the day, your grades are primarily what Canadian universities are going to look at, so maintain a balance with extracurriculars. You should continue developing your spike. At this point, you may not know what your interest is. You may not know what your passion is. And it's important to continue continue looking around, continue looking at programs, continue looking at different fields, and figuring out what you want to do, what you think will be best for yourself. Not necessarily what the best program is, but rather what is best for you. What is the best program for you? You should take opportunities to develop this passion. You should go out and go out into the world, look for internships, do conferences, joining organizations, continue going to clubs, looking around, talking to people. You can often find like-minded people who can push you in the right direction and show you things that they may have done before, which is what we're going to be doing in this presentation. We're going to be showing you a few examples of programs that we've done that we found particularly useful and that you may want to get, you may want to start participating in. So continue with leadership roles, because at this time, in grade 9, grade 10, you're probably not going to be the leader of a club. And so continuing to work through those clubs and work up the ranks and developing a good rapport with your friends and with the teachers at the school is usually a good way to move up through clubs, move up through programs, and eventually take on those leadership positions in grade 11 and grade 12. Once again, over the course of the school year, it's important that that summer in grade 11 is well used, especially since you're going to be going into university applications the next year. One thing that you can do is if you're applying to a program that you are not sure as to if you may have the correct, or you may not know how to apply to it or what it's going to be like, you can often find past essays and past questions for university applications, as they usually don't change from year to year, and you can begin to practice filling them out, actually going through the questions and seeing how you would answer them, what a good answer would be like for yourself, and just sort of getting used to it so that it's not so much of a, so it's not as much, it's not as much stressful when you actually go and do it in the year. SHAD is still a really great program, and I'll talk briefly about that. SHAD is basically the summer program where you actually go and stay on a university campus for about a month, and you go to different programs there. There's a wide breadth of things that you do, so this is a good way to figure out what your spike is or what you're interested in doing, and you work alongside and you actually live with professors at the university, and so you can ask them questions and talk to them. And this is, a lot of universities in Canada do offer this. Many of the big universities offer it, with the one exception being U of T. However, many universities such as U of T do offer programs similar in nature to this.
And finally, grade 12. How many of you are going into grade 12 next year? Cool, yeah, so that's a decent amount of you. I would say that this is like your weirdest year in high school. As Ethan was saying, university applications are up as early as September 1st, and I know that there are some scholarships that are due as early as October 1st, things like the Loran Award and the Chancellor Scholarship are those things that you are being considered with. So that summer leading up to grade 12, make sure you can even start your application right away, because nothing will usually change in between then and December when most of them are due. So the first part is to make sure your marks stay up until midterms of second semester. So we do continuous with that rigorous course load, as Kevin wrote down in the presentation. But another important thing, if you're not in grade or going into grade 12, is to try to spread it out. I fast-tracked a lot of my grade 12 courses. I took 3 grade 12 courses in grade 11. I took grade 12 English in my second semester and grade 12 advanced functions in my first semester. And that really helped me allow to put a lot of time and effort in those applications that I was doing in the first part of the year, as well as my extracurriculars to continue to the promise that I wrote in my applications later in the year, such as being the president of my DECA chapter. So it's really important, though, to keep your marks up to date, especially in the first semester. By the second semester, around April, you will know the university, essentially, that you've been accepted into, as well as set the final grades to the university. And then after that point, you will have to keep a very low average if you're a high achiever, so something like a 70 to an 80%. If you are already getting a 95 plus average, a 90 plus average, that is very feasible to keep. So don't worry too much about that, but definitely up until that midterm mark. So focusing on writing your applications, as I said, most of the applications can be found on the internet. A lot of them don't change. So definitely start as soon as you can. Look it over, think about it. I know that it's something that I can't go do very last minute. I have to write it and then go back to it and then write it again, go back to it. There are some applications that I even ended up writing about 5 or 6 times before I actually sent in the real thing. And another thing is character count with your applications. Something like 2,500 characters, so 2,500 characters, sounds like a lot, but that's really only about this much of a piece of paper. So that's really difficult to try to sell yourself. So make sure you understand how to really condense the information, but still give a good point. So the earliest acceptances will come out in November, and then the latest could come up until July or August for waitlists. Usually the last official deadline for universities to send an acceptance is May. So quite recently, it was about 2 weeks ago for us, that was the last time we heard. And then also apply for scholarships. Don't leave free money on the table. There are so many universities that are essentially begging you to take their money because they have over $30 million that they can give. So make sure you apply to those scholarships. It's really, really important, and a lot of scholarships are nomination-based for your school, so sometimes you might have to give the application to the school, and then the school passes it forwards if they like you as a nominee, opposed to the other students who applied. But definitely look for different scholarships. There are some great websites that you can use, scholarshipscanada.ca, and their scholarships are very, very niche things. Like, for example, if you play badminton and you're on a girls' team in your H14, that could be an entire scholarship in itself. If you're an amazing writer and you're really good at writing recipes for culinary, that could be a scholarship itself. So just try to look into see what really could be focused towards you, because there's so many of them out there. So that's good.
All right, so Ethan and I, the two individuals here going to Waterloo, will be spending a little bit more time focusing on Waterloo applications, specifically Waterloo Engineering, because those are the programs that we got into. Are any of you guys considering applying to Waterloo Engineering? Just a show of hands. Yes, no, maybe so. All right, I like it. All right, so Ethan will talk a bit more about his experiences and then throughout high school and what he believes helped him get into Waterloo Engineering.
Right, so I'm just going to be talking briefly about the aspects of me that allowed me to get into Waterloo, and I think the parts that Waterloo really looks for, maybe some of the things that I may have been missing along the way. So first and foremost, one of the special things about Waterloo is it's different from many universities in terms of how applications work. Most universities in Canada and most programs at those universities in Canada will primarily just look at your marks. It's a cutoff-based system. If your mark's high enough, you're in. If your mark's not high enough, you're not in. Waterloo, on the other hand, has such a breadth of applicants who have such high marks that that is not a good determiner of if you're going to be a good fit for the university. And because of this, they add the AIF onto it. So the things I'm going to be talking about here are all items that will be said on the AIF, and Kevin will go further into the intricacies of the AIF itself. So extracurriculars are really strong. Depending on the engineering program you're going into, different extracurriculars might look better, but the important thing is do extracurriculars that you like. If you don't enjoy doing that extracurricular, chances are you're not going to enjoy the program or the careers that come after. If you don't enjoy doing robotics, don't go into an engineering program that's going to lead to robotics, because chances are you're going to be doing more robotics. So two things that I did was FIRST Robotics and SHAD. These are really big ones. On the AIF itself, it does actually have checkboxes for FIRST Robotics and SHAD, and Waterloo greatly supports both SHAD and FIRST Robotics hosting competitions at the university. It's both of these are great determiners of if you're going to be a strong applicant to the university itself. Hands-on experience. So internships and hackathons are really great ways to get hands-on experiences, and they're also enjoyable at the same time. Hackathons especially are really easy to do, and I'm surprised that more high school students don't do them. They're actually very popular among university students as they go from university to university. Usually they compete at these hackathons and they pick up skills along the way. But high school students can often apply to these same hackathons, and it looks really strong when you put on your application the different hackathons that you may have won or the skills that you gain from it itself. A hackathon is basically you go to university for a weekend and you build a piece of technology across that weekend. So usually the focus is on learning, so you'll learn a new programming language and apply that programming language to create something. And the University of Waterloo actually hosts the largest hackathon in Canada, and it rivals the hackathons in America itself. It's called Hack the North. I think applications are opening up soon, so you should definitely apply for that. And it's all free. Hackathons are 100% free, and in fact, when you go to these hackathons, they will pay for everything. They'll feed you. They will, in some cases, they'll even fly you out, so they'll actually pay for your plane fare if you're coming from a different province. And there's so many companies there that will just take your resume because they want to hire you. It's a great way to talk to companies, it's a great way to talk to peers, and to learn great programming experience. So if you're going down an engineering path, hackathons are definitely a way to go. And even if you're not sure if you want to go into engineering, hackathons are a good way to see if that's something that you're interested in. It's only one weekend and it's an enjoyable weekend. Internships. I did a vast quantity of internships, and it mostly started when I got an internship through SHAD itself. I got this internship because I was already really doing a lot of robotics at the time, and I had a lot of programming experience, more than people of my age, and so I was able to land an internship early, and that internship continued to grow. And this summer I'm going to be doing an internship at an aerospace company in Toronto, and it's actually a university internship. So I've already reached the point where I can apply for university internships, and I'm not even in university yet. So that in and of itself looks outstanding to universities, especially Waterloo, who has a focus on co-ops because they want you to be hireable. Leadership experience. So actually having meaningful leadership experience is really important. So running different programs or being in clubs, anything really, even sports teams, all of it works for that. And then programming experience, and the reason why I have an asterisk here is because for certain programs, it is actually necessary to have programming experience. This isn't something that looks good, it's something that is required. Specifically for software engineering, because it's so competitive. That's a program that Kevin over here got accepted into. Because it's so competitive, programming is actually required in order to get it. If you don't have programming experience, it doesn't matter what your grade is, they will not accept you. And programming is also just a good skill to have nowadays, especially as we move into the 21st century. So to talk more about the AIF, I'll hand over to Kevin.
Being completely honest, I think writing a strong AIF is absolutely one of the strongest reasons I got in, because I spent a good amount of time, a lot of time, thinking about these questions, writing different drafts, and just really trying to understand the question. And I think that's a big problem for a lot of students. They read the question once and then immediately start writing. I think a really important part of doing a university application is carefully reading the question over and thinking, what are they looking for? What can I bring to the table through this question? And what do I want to show them? You, in your application, need to tell a story. You need to tell the story of someone who's interesting and important and would make a great member of a university environment. So on the AIF, there's a few specific questions they ask. The first two, why Waterloo and why your major, so why did you pick your major, are two general questions that they ask to all students applying to Waterloo. So why Waterloo is incredibly important because you need to explain what's different about Waterloo to them. And really this is an incredibly simple question because on the Waterloo website, they have a section that says why we're different. If you can understand those points and connect them to things you've done in high school, that is a very, very compelling essay to write. These numbers I have next to the different questions are the character counts. And if you see those aren't a lot. 900 characters, 600 characters. You've probably written short paragraphs accidentally that are longer than those. So it's really about being efficient with your words. You have to talk about specifically why did you choose your major. So this is a good place to bring up things like internship experiences or hackathons or things that you've done before to prove that you are already passionate about your major. And then there's a few engineering specific questions that are very, very important to differentiate you from the competition. One question is why engineering? Now, a lot of what I heard from fellow students who applied were that why engineering and why your major, they're basically the same question. But really, they're not. Because why your major is why specifically you choose to apply to, for example, software engineering. But why engineering can be where you show your passion for the engineering process in general. So it's very, very important that you make that distinction there. And finally, goals within Waterloo Engineering. This one, you really should have a basic idea before you apply because you should be spending a lot of high school time developing those passions and understanding where you want to bring that passion. And with Waterloo Engineering, you just need to write about how specifically Waterloo Engineering will help you achieve your goals in the future. Yes, and I'm going to be talking a bit briefly about the specific resources that I use. These are a few amazing, amazing websites that I highly recommend. Everyone, if you're applying to Waterloo Engineering, please read them. The first one is a student who got into software engineering and he writes amazing blog articles on things like how to get into Waterloo Engineering and does really in-depth descriptions and was incredibly useful. The following two, Professor Bill Anderson's blog and Road to Engineering. These are written by admissions directors at the University of Waterloo, and they literally tell you how to get in and show you the marks and what your likelihood is. So they're amazing resources. And the Waterloo subreddit, if any of you use Reddit, it's a very useful resource, but it's also very important that you pick and choose what you see because a lot of people lie. There's not always the best information, so take it with a grain of salt. But again, it's incredibly useful because there's a lot of students there who have a lot of experience at Waterloo and can answer your questions about what is it like at Waterloo. We're going to talk briefly about why we specifically chose our programs. I feel like I've been talking for a bit too long, so let's pass off to Ethan for a second.
Alrighty, so mechatronics. You probably haven't heard of mechatronics. There's very few universities in Canada that actually offer the program. It's not a new program actually. It's been around for about, well I guess it is new in the context of programs itself, but it's been around for about 20 years now, and it was mostly created to bridge the gap between mechanical, electrical, and programming, and it combines all these three aspects together and is most commonly described as, oh, it's just robotics engineering, which is generally true, but the majority of people in mechatronics don't actually go into robotics. The majority of them will end up choosing if they like the mechanical aspect or if they like the software aspect, and they'll decide which one they're going to go into. It's very common that mechatronics engineers also become usually entrepreneurs because mechatronics gives them a good view of engineering as a whole, and as a result of that, they can usually see how things interact and figure out how to connect different systems together. I chose mechatronics engineering because I was so passionate about so many different fields of engineering, I didn't know which one I wanted to go for. And I knew that I loved doing them all. I enjoyed doing programming, I loved making PCB designs, I loved doing CAD. And all three of these were all passions of mine, and I didn't want to let go of any of them. And that's what drew me to the mechatronics program. Another university that offers the mechatronics program is McMaster University. So Waterloo and McMaster are basically your only options when it comes to mechatronics in terms of Canadian universities. I'm sure in the States there's a few that offer it. I haven't looked too far into that. But the big thing that also drove me to select Waterloo was when you look at the broad context of engineering universities within Canada, you have to consider what the goal of that engineering program is. Waterloo University is a relatively new university. It's been around for about 60 years, and they were founded mostly focused around engineering itself and focused around the co-op program, which we'll talk about briefly. And the focus of Waterloo Engineering is to get you hired. They work with different businesses and different firms that do engineering across Canada and into the States. And their primary goal is to give you practical knowledge and to give you practical skills and connect you with employers so that when you're walking out of university, you're walking into a strong engineering career, as opposed to just giving you general ideas, equations that may not be useful. They do give that to you, but the primary focus is that you leave your undergraduate and then you'll end up going into a career, or you'll go into master's, but then you're very hireable when you do end up deciding to leave school. And that's what really drove me to choose Waterloo. I was really interested in getting into the field and actually working, and potentially going down to California as well, where Waterloo has a very good connection to the different businesses down in California. So that's what primarily chose me to choose Waterloo and also to choose the mechatronics program at Waterloo. So you want to talk about SE?
So you stole everything I was going to say. No.
Talk about mechatronics then.
Generally, I have a lot of this, I have the same idea about Waterloo Co-op. That's one of the big reasons that I chose Waterloo, because it has such an amazing co-op and practical application experience. And it's also one of the most innovative universities in Canada. There's a lot of innovation. They have a Deep Velocity Incubator, if any of you understand what an incubator is. It's an amazing opportunity for entrepreneurship, and it's really a good place to develop real-world practical skills to further your career in the future after you graduate from university. I'll talk a bit specifically about software engineering if you guys are interested in that. I picked software engineering mainly because, like Ethan, I'm very interested in engineering. Yes, I'm very interested in engineering, but I know I'm not great with visualizing things or physical application, but software engineering is a good way for me to be able to apply that engineering ability, but also do something that I really love, programming. all in one great program. As well, there are a variety of different courses that I can explore, and the syllabus is incredibly interesting to me. So ultimately, that's why I chose the University of Waterloo for software engineering, because of the co-op and the engineering experience. Now I'll pass it a little bit off to Sam to talk about Queen's and their comms Queen's and their comms program specifically.
Beautiful. So how many of you are interested in Queens in general? Frontline Queens. 1, 2, 3, cool. How about commerce? Beautiful. So at least I have one person in the audience. Taylor's here today. Just kidding. It's okay. Hopefully there'll be more after I'm done this presentation. I still see a lot of you taking pictures, so that's good. Anyways, so I'll get into why I chose Queen's at the end. But Queen's University, actually maybe I'll start with it now. Queen's University is an absolutely beautiful campus located in the heart of Kingston, Ontario, which is a very similar town to Oakville, Ontario. It's a beautiful lakefront. The university is very, it looks historic. There's nice cobblestone streets. There's a very good social life and sense of community in the school. And so essentially why I chose Queen's, not only for the incredible program and because of the Chancellor's Scholarship, is also because of just how much of a home sort of feeling that I felt. And in an undergrad, I think that is extremely vital to do, because I find undergrad is the undergraduate programs that you apply for the university is essentially where you discover yourself before either moving on to a path of research or into the workforce afterwards. So there are many different applications that I had to go through for Queen's. I essentially ended up writing about 7 essays, so that also includes the three different opportunities that I went to. So the first one is the Chancellor's application. So the Chancellor Award is an award that goes to 50 students to celebrate the Chancellor of the university every single year. And this award is a $36,000 scholarship, as well as a network of other like-minded individuals who have also won this that you can attend exclusive events with, as well as the promise of a single room in your first year, which is definitely a perk. So the Chancellor's application, I had to write a few essays. I'm very heavily involved in FIRST Robotics, which I'll get into a bit later, but I wrote both of my essays on my involvement with FIRST Robotics and how I was able to find my niche in FIRST Robotics. So I'll get into that a bit later. But the Chancellor's application was a very extensive application that just consisted of me listing off my extracurriculars. If any of you are employed, they definitely look at part-time employment because that shows a lot of sense of responsibility, as well as there's always, no matter what job you get into, you will always learn important skills for life that can help you in your university years. So I definitely recommend applying for a part-time job if you haven't already, if you don't have one already. And then I wrote my 2 essays, one about leadership and the other is about a challenge that I overcame. And then finally, the PSC and the other supplementary. So if you're applying to Queen's for a program that's not commerce, the PSC, which is known as the personal statement essay, is a recommended but not mandatory essay that you have to write about yourself. It's about 250 to 300 words, and you write it about any extracurricular that you are involved in that you really, really like, and has helped you learn a lot about yourself as a person, as well as demonstrate leadership. So as I said, it's only recommended, not mandatory for all the programs except for commerce. You do need to write it for commerce. However, I highly recommend writing the PSC because that is just one more way to set you apart. Because I find that nowadays a lot of people are getting over 95 average. That's no longer something, like, of course it's impressive, but it's no longer something that universities will be like, wow, that's amazing, because they see that every single year. So it's just one more way to set yourself apart. It's not about grades at all anymore. It is definitely about the extracurriculars. And then the other supplementary essays, for what I did for Queen's, for commerce, there were 2 other essays that I had to write. One of them, again, was about a challenge that I overcame, and then one of them was about diversity. So diversity is something that they heavily emphasized this year. Diversity doesn't technically mean your ethnicity or your race. It can also mean your diverse perspectives. If you travel a lot, what are the different perspectives that you've obtained from that? If you participate in programs that you never saw yourself in, for example, I never saw myself in FIRST Robotics, I'll get into that later. It's a good way to just pretty much say how you have the diverse experiences that you've attained today. So the 3 different things that I would say that are really, really important is 1, creativity. they really want to see creativity in your essays. If you start your essay with, when I was younger, I played piano, like they see that every single day, right? So they really want something that grabs them in. You want that grabbing point from the first sentence that makes someone who is reading 50 plus applications a day to say, wow, I love this, and I want to keep reading it. And then be creative in your essay, make it a story if you'd like. You can add a lot of emotion into it. Another important part, as I said about the Chancellor's application, there is a creativity portion actually. You're given a one piece of blank white paper, and it will be black and white, and you can do whatever you want with a piece of paper. If you are a photographer, feel free to add photographs that express a story. I wrote a poem about my bond between my little sister and I, and how that will change when I go off to university, and I really pushed how I can't wait to be a Queen's Golden Gale. So it's a good way to also show your love for the university that you're applying to there. Finding your niche in extracurricular. So what I mean by this, when I was on the first robotics team, I wasn't doing programming, I wasn't doing robotics. If someone asked me how to build a drivetrain, I could not tell you a single thing. I was the media lead for my robotics team for the past 3 years. So I worked with teams from all across Ontario to actually help build them videos that helped put financial need, to help teams in financial need put these videos towards different scholarships as well as different grants from the government. Collectively, about $90,000 has been gained for rookie teams and First Nations teams all around the world, or sorry, all around Canada, I should say, just from the videos that I've been able to lead and to produce. So that is something that I kind of found. I recognize that media, like media arts, photography, video, isn't something that's really in robotics too much, and so I was able to implement that, and that is how I became diverse in this field. That is where I found my creative portion, and that's where a lot of people, like things like if you're just another DECA competitor, no, you have to do something that could change your DECA chapter, that can make it amazing. Do something that makes the thing that you're involved in amazing, and that is where you'll be recognized for it. And then diversity, sometimes it's about the experience. So, as I said before, diversity could be anything that pretty much just shows that you are different from the crowd that you surround yourself with. And then, as I said again, that home feeling is really, really important when it comes to Queen's. For me, if you are choosing a university, feel free to visit universities, tour them, even start touring now if you're not going into grade 12. It's a great way to tour because touring takes up 2 days to 3 days, depending on where you go. So make sure that you're touring as soon as possible to get that sense of where you find your home. And then also do your research. Find a university that fits your needs specifically. Even if it's a university that might not have those top credentials, if it's something that you think you could succeed in, then definitely go for that university. There's no shame in that, even a college if you're thinking of it. So that would be my Queen's experience. At the end of it, yeah, great, and I'll pass it to McMaster.
Okay, so how many of you guys are thinking of applying to McMaster for health sciences? Okay, a few people. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 3 things today. So I'm going to talk about why I'm choosing McMaster Health Sciences and just generally a bit about the program, the application process for the program, as well as some beneficial extracurriculars for your university application. So firstly, why I chose McMaster Health Sciences. So if you guys were here earlier, I said that I was kind of debating between business and health-related programs. So initially, I wanted to do business because at the beginning of grade 12, I wasn't really sure where I wanted to be in the next 4 years. So I felt like business offered so many different pathways that I could take. So I felt like kind of comfort in applying in business. So I applied to both business programs and health-related programs. So then ultimately I chose health sciences over the other business programs I was accepted to because I felt like I was just more passionate about science compared to business, where I hadn't really done things like DECA or anything like that. I hadn't even really taken that many business programs in high school, so I just felt more passionate about studying health and studying science compared to studying business. And also, I felt that McMaster Health Sciences offered a very unique approach to learning. They use something called problem-based learning, which basically means that you're learning based on different cases. So when I went to the open house, they basically explained it as they don't give you the the textbook and like the lecture to learn, but they give you kind of like the final product, like they give you like the data at the end, and you kind of come up with the story behind that. So I felt like that kind of learning was definitely going to be a challenge compared to the typical like lecture style learning, and something that I thought I could be challenged by, I guess. So then I'm going to talk about the application process for Health Sciences. So Health Sciences receives around 5,000 applications each year for around 200 spots. So it's definitely a competitive program. So first of all is grades. So grades, you need 90% or above. So 90% is the cutoff. And that is your top 6, grade 12, average up until midterm. So that's including like prerequisites like biology, chemistry, English. I think there's 1 math, and then 1 non-science, non-math, non-technology course. So for me, that was French. And I think they're one of your other highest marks as well. So,
Sorry, what time do you prerequisite?
oh, it's
Bio?
chemistry, biology,
Physics.
1 math.
One mass is enough function?
It doesn't matter, it can be,
Doesn't matter, one mass is okay.
yeah.
Okay, what else?
And then 1 non-science, non-technology, non-math.
It's like an art.
Okay,
Yeah.
like art.
Or French or language, and then like English and stuff like that, same things for other
Okay.
And then, so what really differentiates people, as Sam was saying, lots of people get really good marks in high school nowadays. So what really differentiates you from the next applicant is your supplementary application. So how, as I said, I went to the open house, how they explained it to me was as long as you meet the 90 cutoff, it's just a supplementary application. But also, I think that they consider the fact that if you score really high on your supplementary application, then your mark doesn't need to be as high. That's why some people can get in with low 90s. But if your supplementary isn't very good, then no matter how high your mark is, they've rejected people with like 99 averages because their supplementary wasn't as good. So basically for the supplementary application, you write 3 short essays, so they're around 1,500 characters long. And each year the questions change. So you can look at the questions from this year. I think they're still up, but they're going to be different next year. So with that being said, you definitely need to start early. You need the application comes out in September, I'm pretty sure. So make sure at that time you're looking at the questions and kind of thinking about it. I think I started writing maybe in November. And first thing I did was brainstorming. So I think it's important to come up with multiple different ideas for each question and kind of pick 2 or 3 that you like best. And after that, you write multiple versions for each question. So for each of the 3 questions, I probably had 2 or 3 different versions of essays that I could potentially use as my response. And then I picked the one that I thought was the most well-written and the most creative. So kind of following that, creativity is super important. These people are reading over 5,000 applications. If yours is just like all the other ones, you're not going to score very high. So you need to make sure yours stands out. But with that being said, yours has to still make sense, right? You can't write something completely off topic just to stand out. Yours still has to be very well written, very well communicated. So just make sure that when you're writing, think of something outside the box, but make sure you're still able to explain it very clearly and concisely within the character limit. And then finally, for submitting your supplementary application, that happens in February. So they give you a time slot where you have to type in your supplementary application to their platform. So you can't actually copy and paste. They don't allow that. So you literally have to type it in word for word again. So what I did is I printed out my final copy of what I had written, and I had it in front of me as I typed it. They give you 3 hours, 1 hour for each question, but you really don't need that long if you prepared beforehand. I finished probably in an hour and a half typing them up. So you have plenty of time to, but I'm just saying, don't freak out. I know lots of people who were very anxious about the process, but it's really not that bad. Just stay calm. 3 hours is a really long time, and just try and do your best, and afterwards, don't keep thinking about it. I feel like lots of people afterwards keep thinking about like their university application, whatever like programs their dream program. Don't think about it. Go do your extracurriculars, do what you like, and kind of forget about it. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. At the end of the day, rejections just mean that you're not suited for the program. You're going to do better in different programs, right? I feel like I learned that a lot through this whole process, and I feel like that's something you really need to internalize within yourself. Okay, so next one is beneficial extracurriculars. So I put a few here, not just for McMaster Health Sciences, because Health Sciences doesn't look at your extracurriculars. The supplementary questions, they aren't about your extracurriculars or really even about you. They look for kind of somebody who can articulate themselves really well in the supplementary application. They don't necessarily look at somebody who has the best extracurriculars, because everybody's situation is different. Everybody has access to different resources based on how many connections their family has, so they don't really look at that, just to be fair. So basically, some of these also help me in my applications for like different business programs as well. So firstly, I played softball since I was around 12 years old. I've played in both house league and select level softball. So it's definitely something I'm really passionate about and something that I really like doing. So I feel like this experience not only taught me a lot about like teamwork and about learning from your mistakes, but also it really helped with university applications, because lots of universities look for students who have breadth. So I know definitely if you're applying to Ivy for their AEO status, they're looking for students who have like the spike that the other students were talking about, but also who are well-rounded and who do other things. So you can't just be someone who's all athletic, who plays a bunch of sports. That's not going to work, because universities look for students with different experiences and who have tried different things. So I feel like softball really made me a more well-rounded student. So I think you should kind of step out of your comfort zone and try things that are different from what you've done before. And then, so my school also hosts Relay for Life. We are the highest fundraising school in Canada. So this year I was a part of the chair committee, I guess. So I helped run the event. And I wouldn't say that this really helped my university applications that much, just because I did it this year and I wasn't really able to elaborate on my experiences from this at the time that I was applying. But it definitely taught me something that I hope that you guys can take away from what I'm saying right now, is that you need to go out there and pursue things that you're really passionate about, because those are the things that will be most meaningful to you. So Relay for Life was a really, really big commitment for me, and it was definitely a scary thing, because there was a lot of pressure in my school because it's such a big event. And I feel like that was one of the most meaningful events of my whole high school career, just because I learned so much about like pressure, about kind of dealing with other people and things like that. So from my experience in Relay for Life, I hope you guys can take away that you need to kind of go and do stuff that is going to be meaningful and pursue these leadership positions, because I feel like only as a leader can you really develop like the skills and the mindset, I guess, that you need for the rest of your life and for your university career. So I highly suggest that you guys pursue leadership positions as much as possible. And then finally, when I was younger, I loved to read, I loved to write, and I used to write on this platform called Wattpad. So I used to write like a bunch of like novels and like silly things like that. And I really never thought much of it, but I realize now that writing helped me so much during my university application process, because like for health sciences, for example, you need to write those 3 essays. For Queen's Commerce, you need to write different essays as well as many, many different programs you need to write essays or like short paragraphs for. I feel like writing is such a key tool that you need to have, not just for your university applications, but for later on in life. Being able to really articulate and communicate effectively is so, so important. So I feel like right now in high school, you guys definitely need to really work on your communication skills in terms of writing, because they're very, very important. So if you guys aren't really good at writing essays, writing things like that, I highly suggest maybe getting a tutor or taking a class to help you because it's so important for university applications and beyond. Go ahead, and I'm done here.
Okay, so this is just some brief advice that may not have come through in the past slides. We're just going to briefly go over a few things that we think are definitely really important and just general advice that you should have, that we wish we probably had when we were in university, or sorry, when we were in high school going through the process of actually applying to universities, and things that you may have been told that were actually false, you may have been told were true, and just generally things like that. So school comes first, everything else is secondary. At the end of the day, all the stuff that we've told you is how to stand out. That's what you do on top of your grades. At the end of the day, your grades are what matter. If you don't get that 90%, it doesn't matter how good your writing abilities are, you can't apply to the Hillside program. As with Waterloo, I know one case this year where a student I met through hackathons actually, she organized 3 of the largest high school hackathons in Ontario, outstanding resume, more internships than me in fact, and she was just probably the leading candidate in terms of extracurricular activities. However, she was doing all of her extracurriculars at the cost of her grades, and her grades were in the low 80s, and that's the point where Waterloo won't even consider your extracurriculars, they'll just toss your application out. If her grades had been a few percentage points higher, maybe in the 85s, mid-80s, then she would have definitely gotten in, even though she's so close to the cutoff, just based on extracurriculars alone. But at the end of the day, what matters is your grades. Extracurricular activities may be enjoyable, but your grades are ultimately what matter. Do you want to talk about that?
But like, to an extent, all right? So if you are someone who thinks that a 98 isn't good enough, that's not necessarily true. My program, specifically Queen's Commerce, they don't look at your grades if you are over an 87%. From that point onwards, it's entirely just the supplementaries. So yes, good grades are great. A high 90 average is great, but if you are a 95 and you would put, I need to get a 97 average over this new extracurricular that can really boost your application, I would recommend the new extracurricular because that fine line is drawn, and that's where universities start to not care as much. So I'm at that.
Yeah. So it's definitely finding a balance and optimizing your time. So optimizing what you're doing. Universities are interested in both grades and extracurriculars. I think we covered that a bit. Do you have any extracurriculars you want to add to the list that I kind of gave? So it depends what program you're going into for sure, but trying a wide range of extracurricular activities is often a good idea. Even though I knew I was focused on engineering, I still went and did things like DECA because I knew that the experience that would give me would be enjoyable, and DECA is just generally fun. So, it was good use of my time. Always be open to new experiences. This one is actually really important because you may not know what you want to do, and having new experiences, and you may be focused, you may think you know what you want to do, but you may have an experience that changes your mind. So generally just saying yes to things that you may not want to do, but just giving it a try, putting your best foot forward. Doing many different experiences is a good way to sort of get your foot in the door and to sort of just generally find a place where you belong, something that you are interested in doing. And good extracurricular activities and balancing that with school is a really good way to boost your interest in school.
Keep going, Ryan.
So how to find the best programs for you. So this is something that we talked briefly about. Although there are many programs in Canada that are considered to be like the best program, don't apply to a program just because it's the best program. Apply to the best program for you. Apply to the best program that will work best for you. It doesn't matter if it's at a university that's ranked 22nd in whatever metric scale. It doesn't really matter. If you are passionate about the program, passionate about the university or college, passionate about what it is you're doing, and you're prepared to go into that program, then for sure, go for it. It doesn't matter that that program may not be well known. Ultimately, it's what you want to do and where you want to see yourself, what you define success as for yourself. Yeah, okay.
I think this was a really, really big one for me because I went through lots and lots of different university programs trying to understand what I really look for in a university experience. And a big question that came up for me at the beginning was, how do I even know what's different about these universities? Websites, research, read about whatever you can find out about these universities. You can talk to students online. They're always willing to give a lot of advice. And just doing research really brings, not only is good for you in understanding how you want to write your application, but also just knowing if you even want to go to that university in the first place.
Okay, so for health sciences, it's kind of a prestigious program if you want to go into medicine. So I know of 2 other people at my school who also got into the same program, but both of them decided that health sciences was not the best fit for them, despite getting in, going through that rigorous application process, making it in, and it being known as a prestigious program. They both rejected it to go. One of them is going to Western for medical science, the other one's going to McGill. And the reason both of them kind of rejected health sciences was because they did their research. They found out that health sciences wasn't going to be a good fit for them because they didn't want to learn in the style of problem-based learning. They wanted more of a traditional lecture style, and that's the style that they thought would be best fit for them, where they would succeed the most. So from their experiences, I definitely learned that you shouldn't really pick a program for its prestige or for how much it's known for. Pick a program that you feel like you're going to do well in and you feel like you're going to like the most.
So to continue adding on to that point, I'm going to give another example, and this is a really good one for engineering. For a lot of people who are going to probably apply to engineering, and I've said this to a lot of my peers as well. I'm really passionate about engineering, and I've looked really deep into all the different engineering programs in Canada. And you probably all, anyone who's here who's interested in engineering probably knows that the top-ranked university for engineering is U of T, and it's ranked top because of how the ranking process works. So when you look at that, don't just choose, oh, I want to be an engineer, I'll go to the top engineering school. You have to look at why they're the top engineering school and what is good about them. I chose Waterloo because I want to get a job. Specifically, I was really focused on getting into the workforce after I graduate. U of T is really great if you want to go into academia. They're amazing for that. If your interest is going and doing maybe a master's, a PhD, maybe going to the States and studying there, Waterloo is not a good option for that. Do not choose Waterloo if you're planning on going into academia. U of T is incredibly strong for that, and that is why they are ranked first, because really, schools are ranked based on their research and stuff like that. So it's important to look at why schools are ranked where they are, and potentially the second place school might be the best school for you. It depends what you're interested in doing. You rank it based on yourself, not on someone else's ranking. So campus visits are important. Yes, campuses are very important. I guess it's just kind of connects to what I just said. Actually going and seeing the campus is really important because you've probably heard rumors about universities. Things like, oh, this university does this and so it's really bad or something like that. Or the campus is horrendous, you shouldn't even go there. You need to go and see it for yourself. What someone else's opinion might be is not your opinion. You need to go see the university, see if you like the university, and see if you could see yourself being there for 4 to 5 years, because that's usually how long some of these programs are. So you need to make sure that you're a good fit for the university. That's the number one thing. And also going to these universities and seeing them is a good way to generate content that you can write in those supplementary applications when you apply to the university, because it gives you an idea of what the university is about. Ultimately, the university is trying to figure out if you're a good fit for them. They don't want you there if you're not going to be, if you're not going to succeed. And specifically, if they think that you would be better at a different university, if they think the program's not fitted for you. So it's really important that you find out if you're fitted to that program, and then you'll be able to tell them exactly why you should be there, and that's how you usually get accepted as a result of that.
Just to add on to that, if you're on a family vacation, definitely feel free to go visit the university. I took a family vacation to to British Columbia, and then I visited UBC when I was there, because you never know the next time you'll be back. So definitely put that as a to-do. And sometimes they're even nice to visit, like historically. So definitely try that. And then finally, find a balance. So find a balance was covered by Ethan beforehand when he said between school and extracurriculars, but also that means social life. Social life is really, really important to keep up. I know that going out with your friends, things like that isn't that good, but if you don't have social skills, then essentially you will not be able to function in the workplace unless you want to be a PhD researcher for the rest of your life kind of thing, too. Which isn't a bad thing, which is not a bad thing, which is a great thing, if that's your thing. But if you want to go into engineering, you will have to work with the team to decide of new designs and of programming and everything, and you will have to be able to work with people. And if you can't work with people, then that could be an issue, just from like a lack of experience. So make sure you have that good social life aspect, and all universities have that. Even if there's like negative stigmas around certain universities that don't, then definitely that's not true. Yeah. Anyways, and also finding a balance between extracurriculars as well as school as well as social life is really, really important.
So right now we have a bit of an open panel. If you guys have any questions you want to ask us, you can direct them to any one of us. These are a list of a lot of the universities that we got into. So really, we talked about a few of them. You can ask about more because we know a lot of the application processes.
Before that, before we go into the questions, I could maybe take 5 minutes just to go through the classes by speaking in Mandarin. Anyone need that? Don't be shy if you need it. I'm better off speaking in Mandarin. Anyone? Okay. So it's a good opportunity for you guys to learn Mandarin as well.
You want to just start here? Or you have a clicker, never mind. Here,
So I can maybe do this. 他们不喜欢听中文，所以。OK 我这样我用5分钟啊，我很快，因为我知道有些，因为毕竟我们不是第一语言，所以很快啊。Kevin， 其实我一会儿有一个问题我会问 Kevin， 因为他被这个 U Michigan Ross School 这个是在这个 Business School 里面非常好的一个学校，包括伯克利为什么他最后选Waterloo？Ethan， 我认识 Ethan 很久 ，I've known Ethan for a very long time. He's an engineer before for sure. Where's the other two ladies?
Oh, there was the front.
Okay, Sam， 你们知道 Chancellor Scholarship 有多难拿到吗？
I know.
So, the 50 people got in. How many people applied?
About like 1,000 to
1,050.
And then if you like 1,000 per school, so there's only one. Okay, there's one per school that are able to go on depending on your class. But if you have a big school, sometimes that's 2, and so like up to about 4,000 people probably applied. That was narrowed down to 1,000, then that was narrowed down to the 50 people who went.
差不多是1% 成功率，1%的成功率。那 Chancellor Award 是在所有的奖学金当中的分量最重的，大概1年是36,000 ，36,000 for across 4 years.
Yes.
OK， 不是1年了，4年36,000啊。那最重要的其实不是钱，最重要的是 credential， 就是你能得到它。那对你的大学申请，这就是一个金字招牌，都不用讲别的啊！我拿到了 Chancellor Award， 这个是。
我问个问题吗？他这个奖金是还没申请大学以前就拿奖金再去申请大学吗？还是大学给他的？
No, during the Chancellor Award 是他有一个组织，这个组织给他的。
哦，和这个大学没关系是吧？
和这个大学，the Chancellor Award the money is it provided by Queen?
Yes, the money is provided by the.
那我说错了，那是大学 ，OK，yeah，那Lindsay 我也是认识 Lindsay 很久啊 ，Lindsay 原来在我们这儿学debate，然后他是 OT 的学生啊，所以当然他也是很多，像 UT 的 Rodman 啊，他也进了 Queen's Commerce right，IB School， 所以他基本上两个，一个是这个 business， 另外一个是 medical， 那最后他选的是 medical。Tom just went to
我帮你啊。
Oh, you can speak Mandarin.
我讲的一点。
OK， 不错了，不错了。All right, so 那我们很快9年底 9年级要做什么？那他们就是讲你要就是其实是这样，8年级跟9年级之间有一个很大的一个跨越，很多学生到9年级之后一下子不适应，因为从英语各个方面我们就讲英语，英语是非常大的一个跨越，所以9年级的时候你要去适应啊，所以最关键的是你要之前啊尽量早一点。就如果你对你自己啊，或者我们对我们自己的孩子的这种期望值比较高，所以我们一般通常会建议大家早一点，早一点。什么叫早一点？就是可能6年级你要学7年级的，7年级学8年级，大概是这个样子啊。然后这个，刚才Sam you talk about okay if you had to choose between grades and extracurricular you would choose the latter one, right?
I would choose on focusing on good grades, not like supreme extreme grades,
Yeah.
but extracurriculars.
Yeah.
I would put
So
after that.
I'm 100% with you. 所以大概的意思是这样，就是说你的学习成绩要达到一个程度，就比如说你是95分，95分跟99分基本没什么区别啊，或者说我们92分跟99分可能也没有本质区别。你不一定非得到了95分，非要去搞99，没有必要。比如说我们说 SAT， 比如如果你申请美国的话，你考的1504左右，就不一定非得要考1590啊，不一定要考1600，拿出更多的时间来去发挥你的这种课外活动的特长，最好是竞技性的，因为我们现在看到的趋势不光是仅仅是美国啊，以前是美国，现在越来越多的加拿大学校在看你的extracurricular，就是你的课外活动。因为课内的这个成绩啊，已经分不出来这么多学生，所有学生的这种课内成绩都很高。Okay, so they care more about. So this is for you guys. Tell me whether I'm telling you the truth. They care more about what type of person you are than what type of student you are.
Yes.
Right? 所以你是一个什么样的人？而不是你是一个什么样的学生，好吧？所以9年级的时候要开始去这个我们叫 explore， 就是要开始去探索、去发掘你的兴趣爱好，你到底你的特长和你的热情在哪里啊？另外一个 summer， 那 summer 实际上我自己认为是经常讲是我们叫分水岭，或者说我们叫弯道超车啊，很多。学生就是说 summer 去彻底的这个放松。那如果你彻底放松的话，其他人在做事情的话，那这个是你就容易被弯道超车了。因为从9月份到6月份，这个常规的课这个上课时间啊，基本大家都差不多。你们的 routine 啊，基本都差不多。因为周一、周五，然后可能周六、周日有一些活动，然后每天上课回家，大概都这样啊。但夏天大家的安排是千差万别，所以怎么样能够利用好夏天？你要想办法用夏天的时间、暑期的时间去弯道超车别人，不要被别人弯道超车你。那你要做什么？刚才他们讲到9年级啊，这个我们不要讲我们自己啊，但是就是说你要 Can you turn OK there you go 你要做 internship， 你可以做 internship， 10年级可以开始做 internship， 可以开始申请 SHAC。当然，就像我刚才讲的 pre-learning， 要往前学，因为等你到11年级到12年级的时候，大量的东西要做。刚才他们在讲 essay writing， 在讲所有的那些东西，你根本做不完。都不要讲你申请美国，你就申请加拿大这种，你到时候你都做不完。好，第二个 I got it。No, can you go back to grade 10? Keep up with your marks. 你的学习成绩一定要好啊，这个不用讲。你的 spike， 什么叫你的 spike？ 就是你的这个脚吧，right？ unicorn， so make yourself different， 让你跟别人不一样啊，让你能够 stand out。OK， 这个就是你的 spike， 你跟别人不一样，因为现在竞争越来越激烈，而且我跟你们讲，会越来越激烈。再过1年，再过2年，再过3年，一定会很激烈。所有这些学校都是这样，所以你怎么能够在竞争当中让你自己能够脱颖而出？这是你要从9年级、10年级要开始想。OK，grade 11 这个时候很多学校开始看你的成绩了啊，这说的是加拿大学校，如果是美国学校9年级他就开始看，然后 continue developing 你的这个你的 spike， 所以你的 passion 就是你到底喜欢做什么，你到底准备在哪个地方去发展你自己啊，让你变得跟别人不一样 ，leadership roles， 所以他们这些。So you guys all have leadership roles, right? You are president of the Bangkok Club and robotics for sure. What about you guys?
Clubs in my school. Yeah, a lot of clubs in my school, a lot of volunteering in my
A lot of volunteering and easy. There you go. OK， 所以要做一些事情，不一定是多大多重要。OK， 你说我要去解决北朝鲜核问题，你解决不了，对不对？中美贸易谈判你解决不了。做一点简单的事情，可以很小，但是要把它做成，就可以很小。你哪怕帮助妈妈解决一个每天晚上刷碗的问题，我觉得都可以。但是一定要把它做成，要有一个impact，就是你做了一个东西，能够帮到别人一点点，对不对？我能帮妈妈洗碗，每天节约5分钟。那这也是一个事情啊，所以要做点什么东西。OK， 我 turn to the next page。加拿大大学他看的成绩就是12年级成绩，就是 the first semester of grade 12，right？ 那所以那个学期的成绩是极其重要。其他的我不讲了。Go to the next one. Hold on, can you go back? Here.Scholarship， 刚才他们讲30 million， right？ 30 million free money， 3000万 across the country， right？
Even more probably. I think one university has 30 million to give.
Yeah.
There's probably at least $1 billion.
Not only
I would say.
Not only provided by the universities, but provided by organizations,
The government
corporations.
even.
所以很多这种奖学金啊，因为我知道很多像银行、像 TD， 像美国的像可口可乐、麦当劳，所有这些公司都有啊，西门子啊，什么就是都会有。然后大学啊、政府啊，各个就这些奖学金啊，你们都可以去申请啊。为什么不呢？What do you do? OK。最重要的 internship hackathon， 这个是 What to Do 的这个 AII 是它的一些你申请的时候你的那些附加的那些申请的文件啊，最重要的是这几个，实际上是 essay， 是你的 essay writing， 都是很短的，900个字母，900个 characters， 大概可能200个字、300个字。呀，大概200-300个字，可能1页不到吧，不到1页，1/4页了。
1页4分之一。
对呀，差不多了，就没多少东西了，这600个字都没有了。因为美国的 application essay 大概是600个 words，650 words， 这个650 characters， 差不多是1:4、1:5，5倍到4倍的工作量。美国那个工作量会很大，他们知道，因为他申请了很多美国。Right, Kevin? All right, so go. Let's move. All right, 这个他们刚才讲的这个，我觉得大家要看。像这个是他们一个已经进到了这个 Waterloo Engineering 写的。那刚才他讲这几个人是他们的那个招生办主任，他们写了一些文章在网上的，关于你怎么去这个从这个高中开始就开始一步一步的去规划你的这个学习和你的课内包括课外活动啊。Waterloo Co-op 就是你的实习啊，这个可能是 Kevin 的一个最重要的原因，他最后选择 Waterloo over Berkeley and Ross。All right, let's go. 会，我个人很喜欢，是 my favorite school。我很喜欢会。
Wait, you go to Queens?
No,
You just like it.
I just like it. I just like it. 你们知道有多少人？我知道有很多人被耶鲁、哈佛录取的学生被Queen reject。 I know a lot of people got accepted by Harvard, but got rejected by Queens.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Elon Musk went to Queens as well.
Elon Musk 就是那个
Tesla
Tesla，他是 Queens 的。大概他们的acceptance rate 5%。
For
For
Queen's Commerce
commerce.
is 6%.
6%，差不多哈佛耶鲁也大概这个样子。那个你的 software engineering Waterloo 5%，
Yes.
around that。
Oh.
It would be.
McMaster Health Science 5%，5%。所以这些 program， 我个人认为，在加拿大这些 program 一点都不比美国的那些差，但是一定是要这几个，就我们今天来这几个是代表性，就是加拿大竞争最激烈的。Let's go. McMaster, of course, Health Science, the best in the country. All right, we'll go. Supplementary, start early here. Start early, brainstorm. What kind of story you want to tell? 就是你写 essay 实际上是在讲故事。你要讲一个什么样的故事给人家听？那你要先去头脑风暴，对不对？我要讲什么嘛？对不对？你这个一定要早啊！刚才林姐讲，他大概11月份开始的，对。那大概you got if you started in November, you got maybe 2 months
Yeah,
to really
yeah,
prepping for this.
yeah, but at the end I changed
You change a lot.
because I didn't like that.
所以我知道很多像这种最后申请的学生啊，这个包括我自己的小孩，他在这个地方花了大量的时间，就是这个 essay 啊，就是这个 essay， 花大量的时间，因为是这样，你不是一个 essay 写一遍就完了，他要写多个版本。You should prepare multiple versions, multiple editions. 所以你要写多个版本，大量的时间要在这个地方，所以一定要早开始，一定要。这就为什么刚才我们讲，就是你要把事情往前推。7年级、8年级的事情8做9，9做10，10做11，然后你在12年级的时候，你才有足够时间做这个。否则的话，你12年级都还去做那些什么功课啊、课内的东西，你根本没有时间去做这个。如果像他们这种又申请美国，那就会更就早一点了。We'll go to the next one. Wow, I'm baseball fan. Go ahead. Our advice, yeah. So school first. 就选那个学校一定是你适合的，就是不要只看排名了。第1名一定是要选不一定的，你要选你适合的。去学校去走一走看，最重要的是看人，最重要是看人。比如说你看到 Kevin， 你看到 Ethan，this is the typical Waterloo people. You like them? You like them? Go to Waterloo. Right? You like Sam? Go to Queens. Right? You like Lindsay? Go to McMaster. So people, look at people. Okay? So make sure you are the same type of people before you join them. Am I right?
You're right.
Of course, I'm always. Yeah, 这个是我应该这么讲的。Universities are more interested today in extracurriculars than in grades. 加拿大的学校以前基本都是看 grade， 都是看成绩。那现在可能更多的他们看 extracurricular。Okay. Campus visit, find the balance. Okay, there you go. Questions? 问题，你们可以用中文问，也可以用英文问。我的问题 ，Kevin, why did you choose Waterloo over Berkeley and Ross?
Why you not going to the US?
Why didn't? 你可以讲 whatever you feel more comfortable. I can do translation.
Okay. I'll just do English because I'm more comfortable. Again, it was really just that last thing, fit. It was more suitable for me. I just thought that going to Berkeley and Ross wasn't what I wanted, and I really think that engineering experience is incredibly useful. And also I just thought that at those two schools I would be getting a business degree, and it would be really, really hard to go from business to engineering. But from undergraduate, going from engineering to business is something that happens all the time. So really, if I wanted to explore my interest in business in the future, it would be an easier transition. And also, like he said, Waterloo Co-op is a big plus that neither of those schools have.
Excuse me, Berkeley is also a very famous engineering school. So
Oh no, and but for Berkeley, I got in for business, so it wasn't necessarily engineering.
Also, to add to the process about like how these universities fit in for engineering, Berkeley is by far probably the number one when it comes to hiring in California. Getting a job in California in Silicon Valley, where most of the engineering jobs, like the really big engineering jobs are, Berkeley is basically where those businesses hire from, and usually the second university that they hire from is actually Waterloo, because Waterloo has such good rapport with all of the businesses down there and all the different companies. The stat is usually about 60% of students in their final year of university at Waterloo will go and co-op at companies down in California. So it's like if you want to go work in the States, a really great option through Canada is to go through Waterloo, which is it's much easier to get to Waterloo than it is to get to Berkeley.
Yes.
Because Berkeley's
I
like
can
everyone
agree
wants
with
Berkeley.
that.
Yeah, and just to add on to that too, American schools, it is difficult for jobs afterwards as well, no matter if you're a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident. I have a friend who was a Canadian citizen and they went to an American school for business, and they were actually left unemployed at the end of the day. All of their friends got employment because they were American citizens, but it was really difficult for my Canadian friend to get an employment, so he had to come back to Canada and try to get a job in Canada with a degree from an American school, even though it was an Ivy school in Columbia University. So it's really, really difficult. So I would definitely consider Canada for an undergrad, no matter if you're Canadian or a permanent resident here, or even if you're still on a visa. It's really, really good for Canadian schools. They're definitely top rated.
Yeah, go ahead. Then after that is you. Go ahead. You have a question?
What if you said something about a classmate who got low 80s because she focused too much on extracurriculars? What program was she applying to? Was she trying to get into? And what kind of grades would you need from that?
So she was applying to software engineering, and
Sorry, what school?
at Waterloo, because software engineering was like the thing. But so her applications were outstanding, and for Waterloo, if your grade is not above, I think it's around 85.
I think for software engineering it's 90.
90? Okay.
Because if you look at the chart, there's a very, very famous chart that shows your percentage.
Yes, but the absolute cutoff.
Absolute
I think
cutoff.
it's about 85. If your mark is below 85, they won't even consider your AIF. So if you're getting like anything below an 85 is, if you're going for like really strong engineering programs, it's really low. Chances are you're not going to get in. The stat this year for software engineering was there were 200 spots for software engineering. I believe there were
125.
Sorry, 125 spots for software engineering. 200 applicants had 97 or above.
Yeah.
There's no way to tell if any of them are any good. That's why you have the AIF. Isn't that right? AIF.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question to Sam.
Yes.
So what kind of extracurricular activities make you stand out? That you got the 1% of chancellor's scholarship, which is outstanding. I just want to know what kind of spike you have.
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned it earlier in my presentation. So I am involved in FIRST Robotics and DECA, which are very broad activities, but it was more the involvement that I did inside of those curricular activities. So for FIRST Robotics, instead of focusing on the engineering and the programming, which is equally as important, I focused on media, and I turned media into something. So being able to recognize a unidentified aspect of a very big organization in itself had really helped me, because I was able to turn it into something to show that it was important and to show that I can keep something going and grow it into something bigger. And then through DECA, I was the president of my DECA chapter. If you are applying to a business program, almost everyone has DECA on their application. So if you are involved in things like DECA, make sure you're doing doing something big. So as the president of my chapter, that was able to like kind of narrow down the spike even more. But I introduced new events that really encourage community involvement for my DECA chapter, which wasn't previously there before. And that really did help me because it was a new aspect of my life. And then I'm also involved in different interesting sports. I do archery, I do fencing, so those are different kind of spikes that I've helped attain. And I also have a part-time job as a vision, like a helper, an assistant to a vision therapist, as well as an assistant in an office to a optometry clinic. So I work with pre-testing for patients. I work with different vision therapy patients who need to adapt to their learning differences by first adapting to the changes in their eyes. And being able to be in a small business like that in Oakville has really helped compared to like, I'm not slandering these jobs, but like a job at McDonald's kind of thing. So that's something that's really helpful.
这个问题我用中文说一下，问题就是说他为什么能拿到一个1%的这种可能性，这个 Chancellor Award。Chancellor 大概怎么讲？可以翻译成总理，德国叫总理，也可以翻译成校总，大学的那个董事会董事长好像也叫 Chancellor。不管它叫什么，反正Sam 讲呢，就是说它主要有两个 ，actual curriculum 有两个，一个是 DECA，那另外一个呢是它的那个机器人robotics， 所以它两个一文一武一文一理啊。那除了这个之外，它体育它有射箭，有击剑 archery fencing，right？ 那么它的社会活动呢，它在一个眼科诊所里面做一些volunteer 和实习的工作。所以你能看到它的这种分布啊。那 Chancellor Awards， 它是每一个学校先提名，所以大概就是每个学校大概 ，so the nominee each school comes for Chancellor Awards like one student.
Yeah. So out of about 17 students that applied for the Chancellor's Award at my school, I was given.
所以每一个学校最后基本就提名一个人，然后每一个学校这提名的一个人，这个提交上去之后，然后最后选出50个人。所以这个过程其实是蛮难的一个过程。然后刚才还有谁要问？Yes.
Question for Sam. Do you have any tips for applying for like an executive position for a club like DECA?
For a club like DECA, prepare, because always I know that when I was conducting interviews myself for different positions, they always ask what can you improve to the club. So come with unique ideas that would really help you stand out to a club that shows your commitment already and shows that you will be an active member for the whole year. Don't just say something like, I'll repeat doing this because I really like this throughout the year. Those were the applications that we kind of threw away. If they just said, I'll just keep going because you guys laid a foundation, right? So that's a great way to show your initiative when you're in different clubs like that, as well as showing your enthusiasm as well. Just having that good sense of public speaking as well as just friendliness in your presentation skills. Just showing that you're engaged, because I think the biggest fear of someone passing on an exec position, like as other execs can agree, is having someone that isn't as committed to keeping that spot on afterwards. So just show your commitment through your passion for engagement throughout the next year of your exec position, and how you can improve your club, whatever club that you're applying to.
This isn't necessarily related to that, but this is more of the question before that you had about like what sets them apart. A really big part about the first robotics thing is at that time, and this is just generally like for robotics in general. When you join a robotics team, you're joining it because you want to do robotics. Usually that's what most people do, right? You join a team because you want to do robotics. And when you think generally about the different programs that exist like DECA and the different extracurriculars and clubs and activities, we had an open spot for a media lead, and we went to Sam, and at first Sam was like, oh, no. Like, I'm not going to join a robotics team, I'm not interested in robotics, right? But she said yes, she took that step, right? And just like how we said about trying new experiences, you may not know what may come of it. And obviously that worked out really well for Sam, because at the end of the day, when you see all these applicants, they're going to have your general cookie cutter, oh, I was on robotics, I was on DECA, you know. But no one's going to have, oh, I was on robotics, but I wasn't doing robotics. I was doing something that no one else was doing, and I was being really great at it.
And it made a difference in other people's lives as well.
Yeah.
That just to give you an idea of the demand for media and robotics at the time, they trusted me with the lead position as a 14-year-old, I think. I was going into grade 10, in a lead position in my first year. That is how in demand they needed me. And that they didn't care if I was terrible or great at it. Luckily, I was great at it, I hope. But they trusted me with that. So that was kind of something that was like I'm so eternally grateful for, but also the way that I was able to turn it into something important in a field like robotics. Because essentially, things like business and engineering go hand in hand. You will not be able to have a engineering company, a new program, a new anything without a business to promote it, and you'll not have a business if you don't have a product to sell. So everything goes hand in hand at the end of the day.
他这个问题是问，就是说我怎么样才能争取到这些club leadership role？那这个其实现在也蛮激烈的，就是因为大家都知道这个很重要，所以尤其一些大的重要的 club， 很多学生在竞争。我给你们2个建议啊，一个建议刚才Sam在讲，就 put together a good plan， put together a viable practical plan， 就是说我如果做这个事情的话，我会怎么做 ？OK， 那你要有一些新的想法啊，能够把这个 club 能够变得更好。那第二一个呢是说，你的真正的这种沟通的技巧 ，OK， 那很重要。不管你是书面的去表达，还是你站在众人面前的这种 presentation public speaking， 因为你是要竞争这个 leadership， 这个 leader。你如果讲都讲不清楚，人家都听不明白你在说什么，你都不够有说服力的话，你怎么可能被选？所以在众人面前的这种表达能力，我不管你讲中文、英文、西班牙文，不管你讲什么，你一定要能够真正的让人家觉得这个是我要选的。所以这些当然这些不是马上就我今天讲，明天我就能出来，这个需要一定的这种长期的积累和练习。所以 public speaking skills、presentation skills， 在你争取这些 leadership 时候非常重要。
That's exactly why I want to get my second question to you. Okay. How did you hone your presentation skill and also public speaking skill? Go to this school. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
I wish. This sounds like an amazing program. So
Right.
Yeah. It's actually my experience with DECA really helped me being able to prepare for being in front of a judge and trying to make something on the spot essentially, as well as trying to sell yourself to make yourself different. I don't know how it really started. I don't want to say I was born with it.
Talk a bit about
Yeah, if you want to talk about it. Yeah.
I think a lot of public speaking comes from just experience.
Yeah.
So if right now you think you're terrible at interviews, go to a lot of interviews and mess up. I remember my first interview in grade 9.
Yeah.
It's burned in my memory. They asked me, why should we give you this position? I sat there for 30 seconds and then told them, I don't know. Alright? I was atrocious at interviews, and now I love them. I'm fluent in interviews. It's really just about getting experience over and over again.
我跟你讲是练习啊，我跟你讲我最早我做 presentation。This is how I did my first presentation.
Yeah.
So this is a PowerPoint. When I talk, I was talking like this. 我非常害怕去看下面的人，你知道吗？所以我是这样的，我是这样讲的。但是今天我不可能那样，但这个是练出来的。这个我跟你讲，没有谁是天生是这样的。我站在这儿的时候，第一次也是，这个像揣着一个小兔一样，哎呀紧张啊！我跟你讲，心跳不知道多少下，是练出来的。你多练了，就是一定是可以的。More practice more。我经常这个如果有今天这种还好呢，如果人再多一点，会更正式一些 presentation， 我一般会对着镜子练，或者我会用一个这种 camcorder 把我自己拍下来。就是我在家里会练，一定会练。我跟你讲，不是我天生是没有人天生可以这样。Right.
I do actually. I thought of something. I thought of something now. I've heavily been involved in music and performing ever since I was very, very young, and I think that has really helped me with confidence, I would say. And I always was one to really enjoy engaging the crowd. I would play songs on things like my ukulele, my piano, and I would sing. And ever since I was maybe 10 or 11, I would be going to as many open houses as I can to perform perform. So I think that's something that really helped me because it allowed me to feel a sense of comfort in an audience rather than a sense of fear. So that was probably also what really sparked my presentation skills in music.
所以所有这些，比如说你去刚才他讲的音乐啊，你弹琴啊，你唱歌啊，你面对观众啊，你参加 DECA 呀、debate 啊、public speaking 啊，所有这些 mock trial 啊，所有这些都会对你的整个的这种 public speaking 会有帮助。Okay, Jerry, question, go ahead.
This is Phil Lindsay. So what are some of the reasons that drove you to apply for a problem-based learning program over a traditional lecture-based learning program?
Okay, so the health sciences, most of the courses within the health sciences faculty is problem-based learning, but there's still lecture-based learning if you're taking electives and things like that. So it's not all problem-based.
Drop the ball.
And then, so what drove me to really want to do like problem-based learning was because I feel like, okay, so it was because that.
You will play Raptors here, right after this.
Yeah, we are the north.
Sorry, so I'm kind of driven towards problem-based learning because it's definitely something that's very different, and I feel like I wasn't really challenged in my high school environment, just because high school really focuses on learn this, memorize this, write this test, right? I feel like in a problem-based learning environment where there are lots of the health science courses don't have exams and things like that, they just have like group assignments and things, and like those kind of things. So I feel like in that kind of environment, I'll be really challenged and I'll grow more than I would in a program where there's just lectures. And I feel like as someone who wants to pursue a professional program in medicine, I feel like it's really important to develop your skills, your soft skills essentially, like talking to people, communicating, rather than always just writing exams and just listening to a professor lecture. I feel like it's really important for where I want to be in the future to develop those skills rather than just your like academic skills.
Yeah. We'll take one more question and then we'll go to the Raptor. Okay. Go ahead.
Exactly. We know that each of you got several offerings from from multiple universities. So I'm curious. So how many universities you applied for?
Oh, all right.
I applied to 7 universities, but within those 7 universities, I applied to about 10 programs, and I was accepted into all of them by around April. So it was a difficult decision for me at the end of it. It came down to Western and Ivy, and Queen's Commerce, but after the Chancellor Scholarship, it was like, how could I not pick? So that was big for me.
So Sam, you are 7 universities and 10 programs.
Yes. So things like you can, once you get to that point, you can apply to up to 3 programs per school. So for Western, I applied to 3 programs because the way that Ivy works is completely separate. Ivy's the last 2 years of university, the first 2 years is a faculty that you choose, so that's why I applied to 3 for Western. And for Queen's, I applied to 3.
So how about
I applied to 6 universities, thinking that the application process would be very difficult and universities would likely want to turn me away. That was wrong. The application process was very easy. Applying to university you may think is going to be like the biggest drain on your time. If you've been doing extracurricular activities, it's not that much of a drain at all. It's nowhere close to like participating in club or doing DEC or anything like that. The amount of drain on your time is very minor. Applying to 6, I could have done far more than 6. I had all my applications done before December, had them all in, heard earlier acceptances back pretty quick. It would like, if you have a wide range of programs you want to apply to, don't limit yourself because you don't think you're going to have time. Just apply. Like, you will have time. It doesn't take that much time to apply.
Okay then, following on, I feel kind of bad. I applied to, I want to say 11 schools, 13 programs total. No wait, 10 schools.
Canadian schools, Kevin?
One.
One of them was
I got
Canadian.
into every program in Canada and 3 schools in the US.
But you only applied for one Canadian.
I applied to one
9 US.
and yeah, 9
9 US.
Yeah.
Did you take SAT?
Yeah,
Of course.
yeah, of course.
If you
It's
apply,
a
you have
requirement
to.
for every US school, I think. A lot, mandatory most.
So I applied to I think 4 schools, and I applied to 6 programs. So 2 of them were like health-related programs and 4 of them were business programs. And I was accepted to all 6 of them. And the 2 choices I was deciding between were McMaster Health Sciences and Queen's Commerce, and eventually I chose health.
这个我想跟您讲啊，伊森刚才他说这个 application 很简单，besides it's easy for him 我跟你讲，因为你们不能用它来，因为我有机会我给你们看伊森写的 SHAD 的 essay， 他的 application 他准备了过来，所以他是平常在这种竞技这种环境当中，他已经非常习惯于这些东西，所以到了真正这种加拿大学校，对他来说已经不是的。但如果你们平常在这些方面这种训练或者这种竞技环境当中参与的不是那么多的话，没有那么简单，没有那么容易了，你要花很多时间。没有那么，如果你要再申请美国 ，Kevin can speak more on this, but and you know how much more effort you need to put in, right? Maybe 10 times more, maybe 10 times more, but
Oh, yeah, definitely
at least 10 times more.
Yeah.
But one thing is that a lot of your applications will be the same. I found myself copying essays into other applications. So don't feel like you have to write 15 different essays. Essentially, you'll really only write about 3 or 4, unless it's super specific to your school. So I'm talking too fast. But yeah, just
Hey, my
like
English
make
can be better than yours.
Yeah, I know somebody who applied also who got into Queen's Commerce and Health Sciences. They told me that, or he told me that he pasted one of his Queen's Commerce essay questions into the Health Sciences one, and he got into both. Yeah.
加拿大的学校有可能，但是
美国学校
也有
但很就是如果那些 top schools 你很难，
很难干。
几乎你说我 copy paste 几乎没有可能。
Is it possible you can share your essay, or it just
I personally, I'm not very good. I don't really want to share my essays, first of all, because I'm not incredibly proud of them. I spent a lot of time, but still, I don't think they have the best quality. And as well, I think that a lot of time what ends up happening when you share essays is that students copy. And if you copy, you won't do great, because it's not you talking. So you may look at my essay, and it's not even on purpose, but you'll end up saying, hey, that's a good idea, and then maybe you put it into your essay by accident, and then you're not speaking from your own voice. It's good sometimes to read them, but there's a lot of things online that I think are a lot better than what I can show you.
If you look at the internet, you can find a lot of good essay samples, right? And you can find a lot of good essay samples, right? From both US and Canada. You can find them online. Find them online. If you don't find them, find me, I'll tell you. Okay, so I think this is for tonight. You know, as you can see, you know, the 4 wonderful people, they're not bluffing. There's no way the true, real experience and stories. So let's give them a good round of applause. Thank you.